Hello everyone and welcome along to Cornflake's Crib, your home of all things rugby, and today, as you might have witnessed last week, is time for week 2 of the Rugby Weekly. Now, if you haven't checked out week 1, you should go back and check out the Scottish Cannon's channel and see what happened on the Rugby Weekly, the show where we talk to you and each other about all things happening out there in the rugby world. If you're new to this system, it is between the three of us. We have the Rugby Player HD. How are you going?
I'm good.
That is super. And of course, the Scottish Cannon. How are you going?
Yeah, hey Cornflake, how are you going?
Super. I am very good, actually. So if you're new to this, it is between the three of us. We'll talk about all things going on in the rugby world, and it will be rotating between the three of our channels. Week 1 was on the Scottish Cannon's channel. Week 2 here on Cornflake's Crib, and of course week 3 will be on the Rugby Player HD's channel, so be sure to check them all out. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's get down to the action, and of course the Six Nations last weekend. We wrapped up week 1 before those 3 matches took place, so we're going to have a bit of a look into those results and see what we thought about the matches. First up, we'll start with the Ireland game up against France. Ireland at home, 18-11 was the final score there to the Irish. What do you guys think about that? Rugby Player HD, what are your thoughts?
Well, obviously Ireland won the game. I think they didn't play brilliantly well. I thought Johnny Sexton did, though. Johnny Sexton played very well in his comeback game from injury, and he was looking very, very good. But yet again, the Ireland team didn't score any tries, did they? So they haven't scored many tries this Six Nations at all, and they really need to start doing it. And I think they have a massive game against England coming up, so they need to really be on top form, and so do England.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a problem with Ireland not scoring any tries there. How are they going to compete with the other sides if they're having problems scoring tries? Scottish Cannon, your thoughts?
Well, they just need to go back to basics, I think, maybe a few times instead of kicking for goal, maybe kick it to the corner and just try and get a rolling maul, which Ireland are so famous of doing. Obviously, the only try of the match went to France, and because of Ireland's not really attacking as well as they did last year. The France were in the game the whole time. So, but I think it's the France's fault for their discipline. That's what lost them the game. It wasn't their attack or their defense. It was just their discipline at the ruck.
Yeah, the France is a bit like that, isn't it? Was it the good France that showed up to that game, or was it the unpredictable
It was
rubbish
the better
France?
France.
The better
The better
France.
France. Yeah.
So not good?
They weren't brilliant, but they weren't shocking. So I'd say the better France. So that they were much improved from the week before. I'd say that.
Yeah. So the
I think
competition... Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, sorry. When their subs came on, they gave a massive boost to them. All of their subs that came on, literally they scored because they had got go forward ball from the props in the second rows that came on from the bench, because they were absolute quality when they came on.
So things aren't looking too good for the French after their first couple of games. Second game we've got here is England, who are at home up against the Italians. This one was quite the pasting. 47-17, the final score in that one. Scottish Cannon, your thoughts?
Well, England are powerhouses, aren't they? They're just proven that England can possibly win the whole Six Nations. And, it's against the second-rate Italian side. But, I mean, they did let in 2 tries, England. But I don't know. Or 3. Well, it must have been 3, sorry. So I don't know if that's going to be a bigger concern for Lancaster, or if it's the attack. Well, what do you think? What do you think the rugby player? Do you think that they'll take more out of the game, that their attack was good, or their defense needs to improve?
No, it's all about their defence. They missed 27 tackles, and they'll be very, very disappointed with that, because it's an Italy side which started off much, much hungrier than England's. And overall, Stuart Lancaster's comments were that we didn't want it as much. Even though they did score quite a few tries, they didn't have the intensity which the Italians had. So, even though they just score a few points, I think he still wants a lot to work on from that game.
So England have definitely a lot to improve on, but that is a pretty massive win for them over Italy. But like you say, they'll be expected to beat an Italian side, no matter who they put out in the park, really. So England get the points. They'll be Oh, they'll be happy enough with that, I'm sure. The third match. Now, I'm sure you two have a lot to say about this one, so I'm just going to let you to it. 23-26, Wales over Scotland. Open Slather, Rugby Player HD, hit me.
Well, I think overall, Scotland really should have won that game. There's quite a few decisions which didn't go the way of the Scotch, but I think really should have. And one thing that really, really annoyed me is when Scotland scored. There was time for the kickoff, but then Jim Hamilton decides to start fighting someone, which then slows down the time even more. So then the kickoff, and then eventually we do have 3 seconds to go, so we can take the kickoff. And then Glenn Jackson decides, no, there isn't 3 seconds. So that's one of the most annoying things for me, just that last bit. And I don't know why Jim Hamilton's starting to fight with people when there's 30 seconds to go on the clock. That's the most annoying thing.
Yeah, what I will agree with, I will completely agree with that. I mean, but the Glenn Jackson, he is the sole, he controls the time. No matter if the hooter doesn't go off, he says when the game's over, and that's coming from a referee with me. But I mean, Scotland, we should have won it, and we should have been in the game right at the end. I mean, it was just disappointing how long it did to get over for that try to get us to within 3 points. If it would have been better if Scotland actually had the chance to, score the try to win the game. But I think, the discipline just let us down again, didn't it?
Yeah, second week running with that.
Poor old Scott. So, obviously, some beef with the ref on that. What do you give him? His fault solely for Scotland's loss?
Well, yes and no. Well, he did make some appalling calls. But yeah, again, it's Scotland's fault. End of the day, you can't just blame it on the referee, right? They let in a few tries, and that's their fault.
That's coming from a referee.
Another thing. I do not think when that scrum half who came on, that was not a knock on where Bennett picked it up and scored. That went backwards. That definitely went backwards. I'm saying that now. That went backwards, and that should have been a try.
Exactly.
I was appalled by that. That annoyed me a lot.
So a lot of feeling in that one for you guys. So I'm sure a lot. So that's 2 weeks of the Six Nations now gone and past us. What do you guys think about in terms going ahead with the rest of the weeks? Who is looking front runner to take this competition out this season? Either of you, go for it. Rugby Player HD.
Well, I think England are obviously front runners. They put so much more points on Italy than Ireland did. Ireland only scored 2 tries and England scored 6, I think it was. So there's a massive gap in try scoring there. And even though Johnny Sexton came back, they weren't as convincing as you think they would be. I think obviously Scotland were a bit unlucky, but Stuart Hogg is playing out of his skin. He's been brilliant in the Six Nations so far. That try scored against Wales was just pure pace. And overall, I think Wales are pretty much, they'll be a mid-table, 3rd or 4th. I can't see them doing any more than that. And France, same with them. I think it's between Ireland and England for the Six Nations.
Yeah, that'll be a cracker. Any final thoughts on that, Scottish Cannon?
Well, I'm just going back to the predictions that I made from before the Six Nations even started. I said Ireland were going to be first, England second, France third, Scotland fourth, Wales fifth, and then Italy sixth. At the moment, it's looking like that, but Wales and Scotland have flipped positions at the moment. So I'm going to stay true with my predictions. I think Wales are going to lose a shocker to, they might even lose to Italy. Who knows? But
ooh, big call.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I think I'm just going to stay with my predictions for now. But honestly, I think Ireland will turn it around when they play England next.
Tossing it up between your head and your heart on that one. I think.
Yeah.
So that's the Six Nations done and dusted for last weekend. Of course, they have the weekend off this one, and we'll be back covering the third round of the Six Nations in part 3 of the Rugby Weekly. So make sure you check that out and see how bad our predictions will be for that week, because really, once we get to Super Rugby, you'll see how bad we are at predicting stuff, which is next thing on the table. Super Rugby, big story this week. Scottish Cannon, you'll have plenty to say about this. Carmichael Hunt, go for it.
Well, obviously, he's caught for trafficking cocaine back in October, November last year. And he's just an idiot. I mean, why would you, a multi-cold athlete, he's played in the AFL, the Rugby League, and the Rugby Union, And why is he associated with drugs when he's a star in probably every single sport? He's been dropped from the Reds, and he's going to have a court date in the upcoming weeks. But I'm honestly, question for both of you: do you think if a person, an athlete who is being, accused of trafficking cocaine, should he completely lose his contract from the Reds and also the Australian Rugby Union?
Oh, it is an absolute retarded thing to even do, really. Why is he even doing it? It can't be for money. He would be on an absolute bomb playing for the Reds. He would have been on a truckload when he was playing in the NRL. What on earth does he have to gain for that? And really, from the other side of the Tasman, I'd say tear him up. He was rubbish anyway. Any thoughts from you, Rugby Player HD?
I've no idea what the hell he's doing.
You've only just heard about it, haven't you?
Yeah, I only heard about it today, but I've literally why? That'll be my question. It's exactly. It's like it's not for the money, is it? Surely.
No.
I just don't understand why he would do it. I just think he should obviously. I think, tear up his contract and just say him like piss off. Just go away, just go to jail and fuck off, pretty much. That's what I'd say to him.
You go to jail. What's he got to gain from that? Absolutely nothing but trouble. Exactly. It's the only thing that's going to come from that. Yeah. So that's Carmichael Hunt.
One thing I will quickly add is, though, the two Gold Coast Titan players have also been accused of the same thing. So from the NRL, the Gold Coast Titans, Bo Falloon and someone else are being accused of the same thing. So don't know if he was just with the wrong crowd or what. But, there's 3 high-performing athletes who are associated with drugs. It's crazy.
It's mentally crazy. It's unbelievable why they'll do something silly like that. But there we go. I don't think the Reds are going to lose too much. They'll probably just gain a lot of money back if they tear up his contract, which after the way he's performed in those first couple of weeks, then good for them. They seem to be going a lot better without him. On to the better part of Super Rugby. We have a few games to cover from last weekend, which took place after we recorded the first week of the Rugby Weekly. So let's go through them quickly. Last week was the Sharks at home to the Cheetahs. 35-29, the Cheetahs took that one, a last-minute thriller. So what I've heard, the Sharks were hammering away at the line for it seemed like a decade, yet could not get that decisive try. Thoughts from you, Scottish Cannon? What do you got to say?
Oh, well, I just want to say that we completely got all our predictions wrong, basically. Yeah. I said Cheetahs are going to get smashed by the Sharks, and obviously Cheetahs turned that around away from home as well. It's just interesting to see where the Cheetahs will go, because they obviously wouldn't. Were they wooden spooners last year? They're definitely near the bottom of the table last year.
Down there somewhere, yeah.
So I just don't know if it's just a one-off, because the Sharks have just got a young, talented backline that have a point to prove.
Yeah, the Sharks have a really good team, yeah, but the Cheetahs showed glimpses of this last season as well. They did get very close to upsetting a few sides, and they showed that they're on the fringe, and it just seems to be this year, the likes of the Rebels and the Force and that as well, starting to pick themselves up. You got anything to add to that, Rugby Player HD?
Obviously, I didn't see the game, but just how wrong were you in our predictions? You'll see later on. Every single thing I thought, okay, they'll win because they were a weak side last year, and it's completely wrong now, isn't it?
It is. Sorry. It's just absurd. And we go to the second one as well. The third one it is, the Waratahs. This was one I wanted to talk about. Against the Force, at home, the Waratahs, 25-13. Scottish Cannon, you have heaps to say. Your team going down in an absolute heap to the woeful, inverted commas there, Force last week.
Yeah, I think I actually didn't see the game. I was actually busy with family business, but I did. Waratahs were appalling. Literally, the preparation was wrong. Curly Beale had an awful game. Foley played bad. There was no aggression from the forwards in the ruck. The Waratahs deserved to lose the game because it was awful. It was literally, they played awful. And I just want to mention the Force. Did you see that huge try fail in the ninth minute? Yes. It was hilarious. I think
how he hit that ball up. I'm not quite sure how he hit it up so much.
Yeah,
when he was trying to dive on it.
I don't know if he was playing rugby league and trying to hit the ball dead or something. But It's crazy, but obviously Waratahs turned it around. We'll talk about that, but they turned it around against the Rebels. But I think Michael Checker, I don't know if he's just too busy in two jobs at the moment, obviously with the Wallabies coach. He's having to look at all the other four Super Rugby teams as well. So I'm not sure if he's got slightly distorted plans at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like they could be possible, but still early days. The Waratahs looked lost. They just looked completely like they had no idea, like playing on the training field for far too long, or I don't know what it was, but a lot of teams from their round one looked just completely on another planet, like they were just playing their first match of their lives. Rugby Player HD, anything to add on that match at all?
Well, obviously, I didn't see the game again, but obviously, it's a big shock considering defending champions losing their first game at home is always a not sure why or how they lost that, but yeah, like you said, obviously we're a bit too much time on the training field.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Interesting point about that first week is both of the last year's finalists lost at home in their first week matches, which is a bit of a shock. I bet the TAB would have been rubbing their hands together on that one because they would have got a lot of cash from that. The final match from last weekend, the Stormers 29-17 against the Bulls. Your team, Scottish Cannon, the Stormers, you picked them, saying they'll be the pick from South Africa.
Yes, I
did. That one?
No, I didn't see it, but I did. You both went the Bulls, so obviously I know more rugby than you two. But no, the Stormers, it's what I expect from them. They always played well, and against the Bulls outfit that was expected to win. They won the South African Conference last year, so that they did, didn't they? Or they at least qualified for the finals, but. It's great to see the Stormers win, and I can't wait to see how they come along this year.
The Stormers have a very young and exciting up-and-coming team too. A lot of youth players coming through the thing. They'll be an exciting time in the future. Rugby Player HD, anything more on that one?
No, I thought the Bulls would win that. That's all I would say. I thought Andre Pollard would play very well. I don't know if he did or not, but yeah. I did not think they'd lose that.
So the Stormers and the Bulls rounded out the end of last weekend's Super Rugby. Week 1 of the competition. It was a good week of rugby, I think we'd all agree on that, but we're moving on into week 2, and there's plenty of big matches, big action coming up in this weekend. We'll start off with the matches that we've already had this weekend, and it kicked off on Friday night, for me at least, with the Chiefs up against the Brumbies. That was the Chiefs at home, Yarrow Stadium, I think it was at too. Bit of a different place for them. The Chiefs got up with a last-minute penalty to Aaron Cruden, 19-17 over the, Brumbies, who looked very fantastic. Rugby Player HD, what do you got to add on that one?
Obviously, I didn't see the game again, but I think, obviously, because the Brumbies played very, very well last week, to see them lose that game, I think they'd be a bit disappointed, but obviously the Chiefs are playing very, very well as well, then, aren't they?
Yeah, the Brumbies kicked away a lot of opportunities to go for goal as well. They kicked for the corner quite often with quite a lot of kickable penalties. So they're saying in the media that that's the way they play, and they're going to keep playing like that as well. Could it be detrimental to how they'll go this season? I'm not sure. Scottish Cannon?
Yeah, well, I think that it's just the style of how the Brumbies play. They've just wanted to play much more attacking style of rugby. But my opinion on that is that if you need the 3 points, if the 3 points is there for the taking, and it's not desperate measures for, to score a try, take the 3 points. 3 points is better than nothing. And if they took one of those penalty goals, they would have won.
Yeah, that would have been the difference, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Chiefs would have kicked for the corner instead of went for the penalty goal, but it's just the risk you take. And, David Polcock didn't play this week because he obviously had the injury, so they did miss his leadership a bit, but I think, is he going to be back this week? I think
so.
Yeah, so I think that when the Brumbies, they're playing the Reds next week, so... It should be a good match, and hopefully I think the Brumbies will take that home.
Yeah, the thing is, the Brumbies got a bit of an issue about over kickers or something. I'm not really too sure why they didn't go for that. They got so many good kickers in that side. It's kind of boggling why they'd keep on with that sort of tactic.
Tumua and Leo Lafana.
Yeah,
they got the good kickers. So.
They do, yeah. So it's kind of a bit
Nick White as well.
Do that, yeah. So that was the Brumbies. They went down in a screaming heap in New Zealand as well. Next up, it was the Waratahs who come back from a horrific round one, and they bounced back nicely to take out the, well, impressive-looking Rebels, 38-28. Scottish Cannon, what's your thoughts on that one?
Great game. Waratahs only had a 5-day turnaround as well, so it was great to see them get up for the match. Honestly, Waratahs just returned to the ones of old. Like they just played attacking style. They got the bonus point as well as the Rebels got the bonus point. So that's really good. But I can the Waratahs. I mean, don't count out the Rebels. The Rebels obviously had the big win up against the Crusaders, but they've had the two hardest sides in the league in the first two rounds. So I'm just interested to see how they'll play up against the weaker opposition. But obviously, there's a bit of a controversial decision when the New South Wales wing and the Fijian one hit the ball dead and got a yellow for deliberately hitting it dead. That's because he's from a league background, and that's how you get a goal line dropout. He didn't probably know the rules as well, but I think that almost cost them the game. But obviously, Bernard Foley, he had a blinder and set up that final try to correctly be able to win.
The Waratahs, they still didn't look at their best. They still made a pile of mistakes.
And turnovers as well.
But the defence, the physicality of that game was huge. There was some absolutely massive hits in that one. And you have to say, how good is Higginbotham at the moment, isn't he? He would be one of the best Australian players at the moment. He's huge.
Yeah.
Rugby Player HD, anything to add?
No, I think it's always good that Melbourne Rebels get them the bonus point even in a loss. So that's always good, even though it wasn't within 7. But obviously scoring 4 tries is always great, isn't it? It's good to see obviously Higginbotham scoring, and I think Waratahs get a win under their belts, which they quite dearly needed after that loss last week.
Yeah, that will set them up quite nicely following that victory. Just the thing on players getting back into form, that Brumbies and Chiefs game, the interesting point about that, Hosea Gear making a return as well, whether he's going to be into All Black contention this season. And they were also missing Sonny Bill Williams and Sam Cane in that match against the Brumbies, which is pretty big players to be missing out on for that one, which is a pretty big match for this season as well.
Yeah, it is, and that's obviously equaled out with the Brumbies losing Polcock and a couple other players as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true indeed. We head over to South Africa for the third match of the weekend, and some may say this is a bit of an upset against, the Hurricanes and the Bulls. 17-13, the Bulls at home going down to the boys from Wellington. Scottish Cannon, what's your thoughts on that? Well, upset, would you call it that?
Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, Bulls they've lost the first 2 games, which is surprising. And I don't know if you saw, but the Bulls had the opportunity right at the end to win, but the winger put his hand in touch when he was putting the ball down in the corner. So the Bulls definitely had the opportunity to win. Honestly, I don't know why his hand would be put down on the sideline. Why don't you just keep it up and put your ball playing hand down first? It's stupid. The Bulls lost that match. The Hurricanes didn't win it. The Bulls lost it.
It's a big call. The interesting thing about that match was Bowden Barrett and Andrew Pollard. Massive match between that. Pollard scored all of the Bulls' points as well. So all 13 points going from him. He scored a try and got all the kicks as well. That's a massive win for the Hurricanes to go to South Africa and get 2 victories. That, for a New Zealand side, that is massive. And it was a very close game too. It was 13-12 to the Bulls with 14 minutes to go before Julian Savia scored to give them that final score lead. Anything else on that, Rugby Player HD?
You just think that even though the Hurricanes, they did win that game, but you think with their backline, they should be winning every game, don't you think?
Yeah, very much. Yep.
They've pretty much got that All Blacks backline. So you think, I know sometimes that obviously that's not the full story when you have amazing backs. But noticeably, there's not many forwards that I know in their team. But I think Obviously, them winning away is always so important when going to South Africa or New Zealand. If you're Australian, to win a game away is always incredible to do, and they did it very well.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things, especially for the New Zealand and Australian sides going to South Africa. It's the massive part of their season. It's what they base, goals for their points for the season around that, and vice versa for the South African sides coming over to Australia and New Zealand as well. So that is just massive for the Hurricanes to come away with points from South Africa. That is the matches we've had up to now. When we've recorded this, we still have a couple of matches remaining for tonight, and that first one is the Highlanders and the Crusaders. That's a massive South Island derby match here in New Zealand. Highlanders' first match for them of the season. Of course, they had the bye in week 1. The Crusaders, of course, losing in week 1 as well to the Rebels, so they've got a lot to come back from. Thoughts from you, Scottish Cannon?
Well, the Crusaders got over the line 26-20. And I didn't actually see the match, but what you were telling me is that Highlanders just didn't wake up like it was their first week, and they just played like it was their first week. It'll only come with time, but the Highlanders obviously made the finals last year, so I'm expecting them to improve over the upcoming weeks.
I don't think the Highlanders will be the force that they were last year, though. I think the key players for them, might be a bit found out, especially Fikatawa. I think they might be a bit more onto his sort of style of game and a bit more onto how he plays, although he did play very well in that match, though. So a bit rusty for the Highlanders. They'll get better, obviously, like all the other sides have as they go on. So that's always room to improve for them. Rugby Player HD, any thoughts on that one?
Well, yeah, obviously, when you haven't played a game and you start your season with a team against a team which have already played one game, you're always going to be a bit behind just on the pace of the game and other things like that. And I think that will tell for most teams at the start of each season when they have a bye the first week. I think that's always going to happen.
I think it's a bit rough too because they have to go 11 weeks or something until they get another bye. So it's a long period where they give just full-on game week in, week out. So a bit tough for the Highlanders, but that's the way the draw goes. Other matches from today, the Reds and the Force, that one has just come to a close. I think it was 18-7 or something like that.
19-6.
19-6, I go 1 point wrong there each way. 19-6, the Reds getting up on that one. Did you manage to catch anything on that one, Scottish Cannon?
Well, not really. We've been recording this, so I've been keeping touch on the scoreboard and stuff. And honestly, I didn't think Reds were going to win after their smashing by the Brumbies last weekend and this comeback or hunt drama. And also the Cyclone Marsha, which is currently up in Queensland. I'm surprised they actually got over the line here. And also, obviously, the Force got over the Waratahs last weekend. So I'm actually incredibly surprised that the Reds won this game.
The Reds had a lot of added firepower, though, with James O'Connor coming in, Adam Thompson, just a couple of big names that they got in the off-season, making their debuts for the Reds tonight. Rugby Player HD, what you got on that one?
Well, I said last week, Reds, obviously they were at the bottom. Literally, you couldn't get any worse than their performance last week. So obviously getting those big names back has really, really helped them against a team that did beat the defending champions last week. So it's obviously very, very good for them, and I think they'll look to push on now, the Reds.
Yeah, the Reds will look better, I reckon, with Guinea and O'Connor. If they can work something out 9 and 10, I think the Reds could be maybe not a force within the competition, but they'll definitely go pretty good. It should make for a pretty close Australian conference as well, with pretty much all the sides capable of beating any of the others on their day.
Yeah. Just quick question. Do you think James O'Connor's best position is at 10 or a more attacking role, say at fullback or on the wing?
I think with the players that Australia has, he's better probably out somewhere else in the back line, just because who's he going to replace? You've got a lot of players that are very similar around that 10, like Foley's there and Tamua and that. They're different players, but in terms of their level that they play at is very similar. So I think keeping one of those two in there and finding a spot for him somewhere else where he can maybe swap and change and mix himself up with whoever is playing at 10 will probably be best for the Wallabies, I think, this year, possibly. We'll see what the coaches have in mind, though. Other matches still to come this weekend. The Stormers are up against the Blues. The Stormers, well, they looked good last week. Rugby Player HD, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, obviously, I didn't think the Stormers would win last week, and them looking quite good again. So obviously, quite good for them.
Yeah, the Blues are one of those teams. They can be fantastic or they can be absolutely horrible. The Stormers are probably looking a bit more solid at this stage of the season. Very early days, though. Scottish Cannon, what do you think?
Well, obviously the Blues had the loss against the Chiefs last weekend, and they've had obviously big transition flight of probably 16 hours from New Zealand to South Africa last weekend. Obviously Stormers got the big win up on the weekend, so I'm expecting at home for the Stormers should be able to get up the line here. But Auckland Blues, who knows? Who knows with them?
They can be pretty unpredictable at the best of times for Blues. Last match for round 2 are the Sharks at home to the Lions. Now, this is going to be interesting. The Sharks, well, that loss last weekend will really hurt them. The Lions went pretty close against the Hurricanes. Scottish Cannon, what do you think is going to get over the line in that one?
Well, I don't really follow both teams that much, but obviously just Sharks, just based on their team and just based on, them also being at home. I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if the Sharks don't get over the line. But it hasn't been a weekend of upsets, so I am expecting the Sharks to get over the line here.
Yeah, I would have thought the Sharks would have taken out the Cheetahs, though. That was at home as well for the Sharks. Just imagine if the Sharks go round 1 and 2 at home, both with losses, will be an absolute dreadful start to their season for a team that has been touted at the start of the season as possibly being one of the front runners. Rugby Player HD, you got anything to add about the Sharks versus the Lions?
Well, I just think I'm not going to call it because last week I pretty much got every single result wrong. So whatever I say, it'll be wrong. So if I say a draw, it will be wrong. So I think a side will win it. That's what I'll tell you.
One of those two sides will win.
So you owe me $50, £50 if it's a draw then.
£50, you got it right. That's good. That's a wrap up of the Super Rugby. Looking forward to the rest of the matches from this weekend. We'll turn our attention over to the other side of the globe, the Aviva Premiership. What's the goings on over there? Rugby Player HD, man, on the moment, what do you got for us?
Well, last week there's quite a few matches. The game last Saturday was Exeter Newcastle, and they absolutely destroyed Newcastle. It was 46-17. Jack Noel playing in a new position, playing at 13. He looks very good at that. And Exeter looking very, very good, got their try bonus point, and they were also very impressive. And games on Sunday, Wasps, Quins, and obviously I support Wasps, and they got a massive win over Quins, 37-6. Wasps getting the try bonus point with 2 penalty tries, also looking very, very good. And Sarries did beat Bath, so that makes the table even closer up at the top.
I predicted that.
Yeah. And Sale destroying London Welsh, which wasn't really a surprise. And then there was one game yesterday on Friday night, and that was Wasps Newcastle, and that was a 23-all draw, which it was a very good game. 3 tries from each side. Sanotti is incredible. His stepping is absolutely insane. He's stepping people within like a centimetre, but he was looking very, very good. And Elliot Daly was looking incredible for Wasps. He scored 1 try and set up the 2 others, and he was looking very, very good. Wasps will be disappointed because they obviously didn't have Haskell, their captain, but Andy Good at the end of the game was saying that they thought they were 20-30% off pace of the game. But overall, I think Newcastle will be very happy with the draw against probably the form team in the Premiership. So that's obviously quite a big statement there. So and then this week's games, we got Bath Northampton today, which is a massive game. So that's first, second. Yeah. And Northampton, I think if they win that, they're going to get much, much closer, and that's going to leave the table much more open as well. And we've also got Sale Saracens. Sale are at home. It could go either way on that one because Sale they're a bit inconsistent. Sometimes they'll win good, sometimes they'll win badly. So see how Saracens play in that. It's Gloucester, London Welsh, and Gloucester will destroy London Welsh. Doesn't matter who London Welsh play. They've lost 24 out of 24 games this season. They're not going to win. And then Harlequins Exeter. I want Harlequins to win because Exeter are If they win, they go above Ross on the table. And they are at home, but they're not looking on form Quins at all. So I could see Exeter winning that as well. And then obviously, Bath Northampton, I can see Northampton winning that. Even though they're away from home, I can see them winning that. And those are the games from this week coming up, or today.
That is a huge round of games in the context of the competition. There are
Yes,
England are looking at that Jack Noel guy for the upcoming Six Nations games. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, they are.
They've brought him into their squad or something like that. I remember reading something about it. So he's on their radar for the upcoming matches as well. A lot of familiar names there as well. Sinodi played in Super Rugby last season, I think it was as well. So he is making a good name for himself over there in the Aviva Premiership. A good rap. Thank you for that. Right, that almost sums it up. But first, before we catch up or finish up, gaming news coming up. Now, Scottish Cannon, give us a little bit of a teaser about some videos that you've had coming out the last few days about some gaming news before we wrap up.
Yeah, well, I've had some massive Rugby 16 news that has seemed to flow all this week, even though the game's not announced yet. I've posted 4 different videos about the licensing in Rugby 16 and potentially what's going to be in it and who's going to be making it. I think the biggest one to take out of it is that there's what we've seen so far is that Wales and the United States are confirmed will be in the game this year, including the Wallabies, Springboks, and it's a bit up in the air about Super Rugby, but that's interesting. And also, it's interesting that the game is probably most likely not going to be called Rugby 16. It's going to be called Rugby World Cup 2015. So, that's just my intel so far. It's the best I can do based off of no information. But if you want to come and see all the detailed information, I've got all of my evidence and stuff. So I'm not getting it from a completely random false source. So I'm sure you can either come and check out my channel right in the Scottish Cannon on YouTube, or if Cornflake would be nice, leave the channel in the description below.
You'll be lucky. You'll be lucky. Go check those out. The Scottish Cannon's got all your info on up-and-coming rugby games, so check them out. And that could be interesting news. Rugby World Cup game coming up as well. So keep an ear and an eye out for that and check out the Scottish Cannon's video. That wraps us up for week 2 of the Rugby Weekly. Rugby Player HD, any last goodbyes before we head off?
No, thank you for having me though. It's been another good episode. So yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Good, thank you for coming. And the Scottish Cannon, final words from you.
Yeah, just final words. I just want to thank you, Steve, for the amount of effort you put in, even though you've had some power problems tonight.
Nothing can stop us.
It's taken 2 hours to record the Rugby Weekly instead of 30 minutes. So it just shows the dedication of Steve to get all the stuff up. And it's almost midnight over there now in New Zealand. So
it is 11:56 p.m. Good stuff. Nothing can stop us. No power cuts will get in our way. That is the Rugby Weekly for week number 2. Be sure to check out week 1 if you haven't already, and be sure again to check out week 3, which will be on the Rugby Player HD's channel. All links will be in the description below. Check them out. Thank you for tuning in until the very end, and we'll see you next week. Until then, take care.
Thanks, guys.